The cars are ready in their neat one-by-one staggered formation on the grid. The green flag waves at the tail end of the field. 18 minutes of GB4 Championship are about to go green for the final time this weekend here at Snetterton. Jessica Edgar and Megan Gilks on the front row of the grid. Red lights are on, and then when they go out now, there's a jump start from Logan Hannah, I'm afraid, from the second row of the grid. Red lights are on, and a long hole. They now go out. Logan Hannah gets a good start, but she jumped the start. It's a rocket of a start for Max Maserati, who really gets away well. Megan Gilks, though, is going to lead them up towards Ritchie's for the first time. Megan Gilks leads the way. We've got one that's stranded on the grid, which I fear is Nicholas Taylor, that's gone nowhere, but they all charge their way through Ritchie's corner for the first time. Finally, I think Nicholas Taylor is going to get going as he stalled on the grid. Locked brakes down at the Wilson hairpin. They're almost three wide coming out of it. The Hillspeed cars going wheel to wheel with the Fortec cars. And I think the first of those that's not either Hillspeed or Fortec will be down in fourth position. That's one of the Kevin Mills racing machines, I think, that sits there in fourth position. But they thread their way out of Palmer and up towards the braking area for Agostini for the first time. It is Megan Gilks that leads the way. Remember, this is a reverse grid race, so the quicker cars coming from the back of the grid. Elias Odestom looking to try and avoid snatching too much brake as he turned his way in towards Agostini, whilst trying to hang on to what was second position. And I think, unfortunately, he has just snatched that brake a little bit, but has still managed to hang on to the place, because behind him still at the moment is Tom Mills at the moment, who sits there in third position. As a very sideways moment there, and I think that was the number 17 car of Jessica Edgar that sort of briefly got a little bit sideways and almost cannoned into the side of one of her competitors there, but there was, I think, just maybe the lightest of touches between the pair of them, but they both largely got away with it. So Jessica Edgar started from pole position, remember, a fully reverse grid race, which means you're always guaranteed lots of overtaking. It's the same format as we use in the GB3 Championship and have done for the last couple of seasons. There's a big old snatch break there also going in towards Brundle and Nelson from number 65, Jack Sherwood, who rather got away with that one. I don't think he'll have flat spotted the Pirellis. I think it was the unloaded wheel that sort of snatched on him. But up towards the conclusion of the first lap they will come. And as they stretch their way out of Murray's and onto the start-finish line, the squabble's still continuing. Number 41, Alex Walker, looking to try and get right up onto terms with, I think that would be Jared Waberski that lies ahead of him, but it's still Megan Gilks that leads the way. Max Maserati, the fast starting car, up 3 places at the end of the first lap. It's a Hillspeed 1-2 at the moment, with Tom Mills sitting there in third place and Elias Odestom sitting there in fourth. Alan Logan is fifth, and Jared Waberski, who finished on the podium earlier on, is up 2 places at the wheel of his Kevin Mills racing machine. He completes the top 6 at the moment. Trying to sneak through is Alex Walker up the inside of the number 20 car of Jared Waberski. That doesn't quite work as they head out of what is the hairpin at Wilson and round through Palmer. So it's still the number 20 car of Jared Waberski, which is largely blue and grey in the colour, a light blue and grey that's got the black and red Elite Motorsport machine sitting directly behind it, the Elite Motorsport car of Alex Walker, as they thread their way out of Agostini. It's another Elite Motorsport car of Jack Sherwood that sits behind as well. You can tell them because they're sort of black and yellow and they've got the odd grey flashes to them. Well, that's a good little fight that's just coming up towards the braking area for the right-hander at Agostini now. 2 Elite Motorsport cars ganging up on the Kevin Mills racing car, and I think it's Logan Hannah, isn't it, that sits ahead at the wheel of one of the Graham Brunton racing cars. Graham not with us this weekend. The Scotsman is down at Brands Hatch supporting some historic racing that's going on down there. So they all head down towards the bottom of the Bentley Straight. Megan Gilks still leading the way from the white and red number 81 car of her teammate, which is Max Maserati, coming under pressure though from the grey and light blue machine of Tom Mills that sits behind, who bounces over the curbs a little bit, actually coming out of the bomb hole that time through. Wouldn't have lost him any time at all, but just using all of the curbs as he turns his way through Murray's. The white and red car, but with the day glow flashes to it on the wing mirrors, is Elias Odestom that sits behind the Swedish youngster, just 15 years of age. He sits there in 4th place at the moment. Well, Elias, in yesterday's race, finished in 6th place. He was 5th earlier on in the race today. Well, he's in 4th at the moment, and hot on the heels of cars around him, but finished on the podium earlier on, so could be on for a good run here if he can hang on to the positions. But Megan Gilks is doing a really good job, I've got to say. Fantastic job that she is doing of making sure that she is hanging on to the lead of the race. Max Maserati in 2nd place, as I think rather less looking to try and close up on the race leader, and is probably more focused on trying to keep Tom Mills behind and hang on to second place at the moment, and the chink in the R almost told there as well, because Max Maserati at the wheel of the white and red number 81 car ran a little bit wide heading out of Palmer, raised the dust, and that's brought Tom Mills right onto his coattails, and also in his Pirelli wheel tracks now is the number 8 machine in the hands of Elias Odestom. You can tell Elias's car because of those day-glow flashes, not just on the wing mirrors, but the air intake and roll hoop is also day-glow yellow as well, so that's how you can tell certainly the difference between his car and the rest of the Fortec cars. However, with the Hill Speed cars also being a similar colour, white and red, it does make it slightly difficult. And more dust raised. This time it was Max Maserati again, I think, coming out of Williams that ran a little bit wide. He's having to weave around to try and break the toe on Tom Mills as they head down towards the bottom of the Bentley straight, but Tom is too far away, I'm afraid to say, as they thread their way through Brundle, through Nelson. They're on lap 3 at the moment. The fastest lap of the race has gone the way of the car that stalled on the grid, Nicholas Taylor. It's been a tough weekend really for Nicholas Taylor. He started on a high yesterday, the number 66 Fortec car, with a race win. He had an awful first lap earlier on today, which dropped him all the way down through the order. He eventually clawed his way back up to 6th. But he stalled on the grid in this race, which means he started at the back and has now to work his way through. We have got one car, though, that is in the pit lane, and Chris might be able to bring us some news as to what has happened for poor old Chloe Grant, who has had a retirement, I'm afraid, at the wheel of the Graham Brunton prepared car. So I'm sure we might get some news from Chris as to what has happened whilst out on track. Megan Gill continues to lead and is stretching the lead advantage, actually. Max Maserati is falling away as he focuses his efforts on defence rather than attack. And that means that Megan now has a 1.4 second lead, and that's increased by 3/4 of a second on that lap through. So it's still a hill speed 1-2, but Tom Mills is queuing up in third to try and get by at the wheel of the grey and light blue number 21 car as they head in towards Agostini. And then we've got Elias Odestom as well, not too far behind, and Elias Odestom throws one up the inside of Tom Mills to try and squeeze his way through up into the podium places. Didn't quite work, I don't think, for him. No, he just misses out, so can't quite get the job done heading out of Agostini. He's too far away as they head in towards the braking area for the right-hander at Oggies, but the key to this is going to be getting a good run coming onto the Bentley straight. We've also had another overtake taking place as well. That is now Christian Lester, the number 7 car, losing out to yesterday's race winner Nicholas Taylor as the 66 dived through up the inside and took 10th place away going in towards Agostini. Now, Max Maserati, who had been clinging on slightly to second place, has now got a bit of, not a great deal, but did have a little bit of daylight between himself and Tom Mills. But I think Tom Mills was far more confident on the brakes heading in towards Brundle and Nelson. So for Max Maserati, I thought having a bit of breathing space, all of a sudden, round through Coram, they come for the 4th time. He's got Tom Mills right back with him again, and Tom Mills has also got the number 8 car, the car with its day-glow flashes to the wing mirrors of Elias Odestom right behind as well. So nose to tail, we see 2nd, 3rd, 4th, onto the centre straight, over the start-finish line, and all of this is playing beautifully into the hands of Megan Gilks, who continues to just maintain what is roughly a 1.5 second gap between herself and the trio that are squabbling away behind. Jared Waberski is still there in 5th place, the second of the 2 Kevin Mills Racing's cars. Alex Walker is 6th at the moment, number 41. Logan Hanna for Graham Brunton Racing is 7th. Jack Sherwood is 8th. Jessica Edgar, the pole sitter, is there in 9th place. And just to confirm, we've got Nicholas Taylor there in 10th place, and Christian Lester is the last of the runners at the moment in 11th position because of poor old Chloe Grant having to retire to the pit lane, for which no further news is available to us at the moment. Now, this is a change of position, is it? Yes. Elias Odestom dives up the inside of Agostini of Tom Mills. Tom Mills is trying to fight back on the run up towards Hamilton, gets squeezed a little bit, but has to back off the gas in the end. So Tom Mills, who we saw finish on the podium earlier on, he was on the podium in the National Formula Ford Championship opener at Silverstone a couple of weekends ago. He finished 4th in that series last year, is now down and off the podium slots, I'm afraid to say. He'd had a 3rd yesterday, a 2nd earlier on today. He was hoping to try and maintain the level of consistency and get back on the podium, ideally the top spot, but Elias Odestom has other ideas about that, and now the Kevin Mills Racing youngster finds himself off the podium at the wheel of that blue and grey number 21 machine. Now his teammate is the next of the cars behind him, so we'll have to wait and see as to whether he might be able to close up on the car that's behind him. I'm not sure whether we might have some news from Chris Buxton, who's down there in the pit lane. So no news from Chris Buxton. Apologies, no, we won't be able to bring you exactly what's going on down there. Chloe Grant is a retirement, and that's all we're able to confirm at this stage. For the lead of the race, well, Megan Gilks has lost a little bit of her advantage that time through. She is now down to 1 second. Towards the tail end of the field, though, the progress continuing for Alex Taylor, as it certainly looks as though Jessica Edgar now is going to get gobbled up by her Fortec Motorsport teammate. So Jessica on the right-hand side of the circuit, the number 17 car, jinking out to the outside of the circuit. He might just try and cut back on the exit of it. Is going to be the number 66 car in the hands of yesterday's race winner Nicholas Taylor. And yeah, dives up the inside, gets the cutback done. He's able to squeeze his way through and take the place away. So position gained for Nicholas Taylor. That win yesterday, a 6th place earlier on today for the number 66 car. Jessica Edgar so far this weekend posted a 9th place finish yesterday and managed exactly the same position earlier on today. And where is she now? She's now down to 10th, I'm afraid. So, but 3 solid finishes. And the good thing about the way the championship points score is that even in 10th place, it's 11 championship points for the 2 races in which she's competed in. For this one, because it's the reverse grid race, it's not 35 points for a win, it's 20 points for the win, 17 for second and 15 for third. And if you're wondering why it's less in race 3 than race 1 and 2, because this is a reverse grid race, you get less points for the win. But because it is a reverse grid race, you get 1 extra championship point for every position that you gain relative to your starting position. So, the likes of the number 64 car of Megan Gilks, well, she started 2nd, she's leading the race, so she scoop up 20 points, plus the extra point for gaining the lead in the first place from 2nd on the grid. So it'd be 21 points for her for the win if she stays where she is at the moment. And, well, she's doing a very good job of doing so, because Max Maserati was closing in. He's now fallen away very, very slightly again, to the tune of another 0.2 of a second on that lap. So the gap first and second goes out to 1.2 seconds. And who's the fastest man out there on track? Well, the car in 3rd place at the moment, just heading out of the Wilson hairpin. Elias Odestom has just posted, Odestom, I should say, has just posted a 1 minute 51.619 second lap, which is the fastest lap that we've seen so far. 2 Kevin Mills racing cars have got themselves together now, heading past Tyrrell's Bar and Restaurant and up in towards the braking area for Agostini. Tom Mills, the first of those 2 grey and blue cars. You can tell his car because of the day glow orange flashes to the wing mirrors of it. They're more sort of yellowy, and it's a yellow crash helmet for the car that sits behind in the hands of Jared Waberski, who, as I mentioned earlier on over the course of the day, his father used to race in what was the British Formula 3 Championship back in the early part of the 1990s, and has been fundamental in helping Jared with his career into single-seater racing. He's in the car, in the slipstream of the car ahead, and what we have heard from the drivers is that, yeah, they know that the tow works, but equally as much they have been able to work out over the course of this weekend, as they've all got used to the car, exactly how much it overworks the tyres potentially as well. So you can close up on the car ahead, you can have a quick little nibble at it, but if you sit in the slipstream for too long, you do end up overworking the tyres on the car, and that then causes you problems later on in the race. We've got 5 minutes of this race still remaining. It's an 18-minute race. The 2 Kevin Mills racing teammates, number 21, Tom Mills, number 20, Jared Waberski, over the start-finish line, chalking lap number 7 into the book, heading on to lap number 8. The news is, thank you, Chris Buxton. He's written on a piece of paper and let me know, front wing damage is the answer for Chloe Grant. So that's solved that mystery for us. So massive appreciation to Chris Buxton for finding that and having to walk from one end of the pit lane to the other to let me know what it was. So Megan Gilks, let's have a quick look. Lap time was very similar to Max Maserati that time through. Elias Odestom is ever closing on the hill speed car that lies ahead. So they're both white and red, but it's more of a sort of red all the way along the nose and the side panels for the hill speed car. It's still a slightly whiter nose cone, isn't it, for the number 8 car that's being run by Fortec Motorsport, Richard Dutton's team. Richard is here this weekend, the man behind Fortec Motorsport. See the lick of flame, the unburnt fuel igniting as it comes out of the exhaust from the little 1.4 litre 160 brake horsepower Abarth engines. And Elias Odestom has no longer got the fastest lap of the race anymore, because that's now swung the way of the recovering Nicholas Taylor, who is there in 9th position and is 3.5 seconds shy of where Logan Hanna is on track at the moment. But 1:54.001 is the fastest lap of the race that we've seen so far, albeit in terms of the fastest laps we've had over all 3 races, not unsurprising, it's the slowest fastest lap, if that makes sense, and that's because, of course, the tyres have been used a bit more. We've had a 1:49.7 as the fastest lap in race 1, a 1:50.4 as the fastest lap in race 2, and the fastest lap in race 3 is now 1:50.004. Very short gap between this race and the next 2 races, which will take, or next 3 races, which will take place in just a fortnight's time up at Alton Park, where the Intelligent Money British GT Championship and the GB4 Championship, GB3 Championship start their season. GB4 will be there as well in a few weeks' time, but the top 3 pretty much evenly matched now, equidistantly spread as well. Megan Gilks leading the way by 0.5 of a second from Max Maserati, who's got 0.7 of a second between himself and Elias Odestom that sits behind. Another new fastest lap of the race for Nicholas Taylor last time through, down into the 1:50s now, 1:50.892, 1:50.892. Still not quite as quick as the 1:50.4 he did earlier on. And Nicholas Taylor, I think, whilst it's not been the weekend that he would have wanted, with problems in race 2 and race 3, he knows he's got the pace, because at the moment he's set the fastest lap in each one of the 3 races that we've seen so far this weekend. Megan Gilks doing a really good job of, doing a really good job of maintaining the lead advantage. Max Maserati has turned his efforts back towards defence much more again now, because the number 81 car coming under pressure from Elias Odestom, who is looking to sit in the slipstream. Max Maserati is hugging the left-hand side of the circuit because he knows he's got a car right on his coattails as they head up towards Brundle and Nelson, but I don't think Elias Odestom is going to be able to squeeze his way through there. Now he sits behind as they work their way out of Brundle, out of Nelson, up towards the bomb hole. We've got just 60 seconds plus a bit of change remaining on the clock, so they'll be heading on to their final lap of the race this next time through, and it certainly looks at the moment as though that little squabble between Max Maserati and Elias Odestom for 2nd and 3rd place has just allowed Megan Gilks to leap away a little bit more into the lead of the race. He was leading by just 0.4 of a second at the start of the lap. At the end of the lap, she's leading by 0.8 of a second. Another good fight we've got now as well is for Logan Hanna, who is desperate to try and hang on to 8th position. She's got Nicholas Taylor right behind her at the moment. Logan Hanna finished 10th in the first race of the weekend. She very sadly retired in race 2 of the weekend, but I think she's going to get picked off in race 3 as side by side they will go up towards Ritchie's corner. Logan Hanna still has the inside line for Ritchie's, but the momentum has already propelled Nicholas Taylor through, and he's going to take the place away, I'm afraid. So Nicholas Taylor now up into 8th place, Logan Hanna down into 9th. The race leaders are just working their way up towards the braking area for Agostini for the final time, still in the same order of Megan Gilks, Max Maserati, who's coming under pressure from Elias Odestom, who's managed to squeeze his way at the inside at Agostini and might just be able to squeeze his way through at Hamilton. No, he can't. The Swede gets out of the move. No, he can't quite make it stick. So wasn't going to try anything too silly there. I think Max Maserati also maybe outbraked himself a little bit heading round through Hamilton, which means that Megan Gilks has ever more disappeared up the road now, and the squabble is purely who's going to finish 2nd and who's going to finish 3rd in this particular race. So down the Bentley Straight, Elias Odestom will look to try and pick up a toe and a slipstream off Max Maserati. He's surely going to be very defensive as they head in towards the braking area for Brundle and Nelson. A bit of weaving around as Max moves one way, moves the other, tries to second guess as to what Elias Odestom is going to do. Well, the answer is he's going to try and get a better exit coming out of the corner. There's been a bit of contact between the pair of them because Elias Odestom has now got damage to the nose cone of his car. Not much. It's not affected the front wing. It's just clipped the front section of the nose cone off, and that might just affect the airflow over the front of the car as he heads round through Coram and up towards the braking area for Murray's for the final time. We're going to see a banzai move at the final corner. He tries to take a wider run in to try and cut back on the exit and get the run up towards the checkered flag. Megan Gilks is going to claim the win in the 3rd and final GB4 Championship race partnered by BRDC. It is Max Maserati who is able to hang on to 2nd place, only just slow from Elias Odestom, who finishes on the podium. Tom Mills comes through to finish in 4th position ahead of Jared Waberski in 5th place, and Alex Walker completing the top 6. Jack Sherwood in 7th position. The charging Nicholas Taylor finishes 8th on the road. But I think there might be a penalty heading his way maybe for circuit limits. The one good thing is that Logan Hanna, who finished in 9th place, I think also has that same penalty, so they will sort of neutralise each other out. So I think Nicholas Taylor finishing in 8th place, Logan Hanna finishing in 9th place, Jessica Edgar in 10th position, and it looks as though it is going to be Christian Lester that finishes as the last of the runners in the Rosso Verde car. We lost the one car along the way, of course, which was Chloe Grant, but for Megan Gilks, that means that we've now got 3 different winners out of the 3 races that we have had in the GB4 Championship. And in that particular race, the reverse grid race, each one of the drivers that finished on the podium, Megan Gilks, Max Maserati and Elias Odestom, have also had their best results of the weekend. Confirming the results, Megan Gilks wins the race, and making a hill speed 1-2 was Max Maserati, who finished in 2nd place, and Elias Odestom finishes in 3rd position. The Kevin Mills Racing pair finished in 4th place. Tom Mills ahead of Jared Waberski, who was there in 5th place, and Alex Walker for Elite Motorsport was the first of their cars home in 6th position, ahead of Jack Sherwood, his teammate, in 7th place overall. The charging drive again from Nicholas Taylor as he finishes in 8th place. Logan Hanna for Graham Brunton Racing in 9th place, and Jessica Edgar completing the top 10. Christian Lester for Rosso Verde Racing was the last of the cars home, and we know of the problems with front wing damage to, unfortunately, Chloe Grant, who was the only retirement that we saw in that particular race.